and welcome to the 9th episode of Tina Talks Keto. Thanks again to all of you who are watching and listening to my videos. Please remember to like them and subscribe. My channel and these videos are about my journey on a ketogenic way of eating, and they are also about what I've learned along the way. My name is Tina Barkin, and for the past 28 months, I've been eating a low-carb diet, and I've been keeping my total carbohydrate intake to under 20 carbs. In the beginning, I followed Dr. Atkins' plan in his 1972 book. I followed Dr. Atkins for a few months until I found Dr. Eric Westman. Dr. Westman's food plan and Dr. Atkins' food plan are almost identical, and I find Dr. Westman's more helpful as he has Facebook groups and other means of community help, including many videos. I'm down about 60 pounds from when I started, and I'm at my goal weight. As we go together with my journey, I'll talk about what version of keto I started with, what I'm doing now, and what worked, what changed along the way, and what didn't work. In this video, Dr. Cywes and I talk about my high parathyroid numbers, high calcium numbers, and what to do about it. This leads into a discussion of how to move forward, and Dr. Cywes' suggestion to get a brain MRI. I've been dealing with parathyroid problems since 2008 and have had two surgeries, one in 2008 and one in 2017. Of all the doctors I have seen since 2008, Dr. Cywes is the first doctor to suggest that the problem might be in my brain and not directly with my parathyroid gland. Wow. Just wow. But this video is not just about my brain. We also cover some issues I have with my morning blood glucose numbers and how a keto diet helps with brain deterioration due to a bad diet and age. It's very important to note that while Dr. Cywes is my doctor, who I see regularly either by video or in person, he is not your doctor. Everything we cover relates to me and me alone. When you hear something of interest in this video, you must go see your physician to learn more about it. Also, it's important to say that what you hear from me is my opinion. What you hear from Dr. Cywes is his opinion. What works for you may be different. It doesn't mean one is right and the other isn't. We all need to learn what's best for us individually, and hopefully I can help with that. In the first part of this video with Dr. Cywes, we talk about my morning blood glucose typically being over 100. In a previous appointment, Dr. Cywes had suggested that I should have some milk in the morning to trigger an insulin response. He has at least two videos that discuss this. One is episode 243 on insulin suppression, and episode 247 on the insulin paradox. He talks about drinking some milk about 12 minutes into the video. The links to these videos are in the show notes. After this discussion about glucose, he asks the major question that has changed my life, hopefully for the better, but only the future will bear that out. He asks, "Have you had a brain MRI?" Of course, I had not. This appointment with him, where he asked this question, was on the 4th of October, 2022. We continue the discussion of my brain MRI results, including thoughts from Dr. Cywes on how keto helps an aging brain, during my appointment with him on December 6th. The balance of this episode are the edited Zoom recordings of my appointments with Dr. Cywes. I hope you find them interesting.
Hi there. Let me get myself set up. So you can't see me. You're going to see me now.
There we go. Hi.
About the lake, Christina. So tell me, how have you been doing over the last little while?
Very well. Last time we talked, my blood glucose was running a little over 100 in the morning. Remember, we talked about that.
Yes.
I did the I did cottage cheese and not milk, but that dropped it down
That's fine.
to, yeah, I figured. Um, that was pretty. I did that for 4 to 6 weeks, and it
The
got me.
only comment, if you're going to do cottage cheese, use the 4% plus. Don't
Oh, of
use the.
course,
Okay,
high fat,
good,
the highest fat I could buy in
good,
my grocery.
good.
Yes, absolutely. But anyway, that put the glucose in the morning down to mid 90s, and
Okay.
then
So let me stop you for 1 second. My suggestion is that you measure your glucose, your first glucose measurement, if you're going to do it, measure it at earliest 2 hours after you woke up. Because
oh,
I don't
okay,
care what your sugar is when you first wake up. That's a cortisol
dawn
effect.
effect. Yep,
Right?
yeah.
That's the dawn effect. What I care about is not how high it is when you wake up. What I care about is how high is it 2, 3 hours into your day. Because what should happen is it should go up and come down very
Yeah.
quickly once you're up and moving around.
Well, anyway, it seems like that's been happening because I actually eliminated all dairy for an entirely different reason, which we should talk about.
Yeah,
But anyway, it's running in the mid 80s now.
perfect.
And Apple Health told me that my latest average for the last month is 88.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
it's taking the finger sticks and the CGM and
Yeah,
merging that data and
that's fine.
running 88.
So the point there is that add a blood sugar on average below 90 and um, with an A1C of 5.2 or less, the commentary we can make on that is number one, to get there, you have to be insulin sensitive. And if your insulin level is below about 4 to 6, you're insulin sensitive, which means you're fat adapted. So being in ketosis is different than being fat adapted.
Oh
Your
yeah.
cells preferentially use fat. The second thing is at that level, the risk of blood sugar to cardiovascular disease is pretty close to zero, which
Which
is
is
really why
wonderful.
we're doing this. The other part also that goes beyond that is the risk to your nerves. So if you're mostly in ketosis and fat adapted, your nerves, especially the support cells for your nerves, are able to regenerate and replenish the fat, so you don't get the peripheral neuropathies, the cardiac arrhythmias. And the most important place is up here. So when you are lipid dominant, your brain, under the influence of a little bit of insulin, your brain can make its own cholesterol, make its own lipids. And then the only thing you want to supply to that brain, other than being fat adapted ketosis, is some marine fat or DHA, either in pill form
Yeah,
or.
I take a fish oil
Just
most of the
make sure
time.
that the DHA component is at least 1,000 milligrams.
Oh, of the fish oil thing. Okay, 1,000
Look at look
milligrams.
look exclusively at the DHA, because you see a
Okay.
lot of the fish oils have, the EPA is good. EPA is a substrate for your liver to turn into DHA. The problem is most humans don't have the speed of DHA production that is necessary to meet the demand.
So 1,000 milligrams of DHA.
Yeah. And if you eat a
Okay.
lot of fish and seafood, 500 is fine. If you have a family history of dementia or neurologic issues, 1,000 is a good thing.
Yeah, no,
So
I don't have any family history of that, thank
you
goodness.
see, Christina, the thing about you and me, hopefully, is we have to, and I think I mentioned this to you before, maybe, we have to plan on the next 30 years. The average age
Yep.
of death in this country is 75 to 76 years of age. So if that was you, go ahead and eat as much ice cream as you
I
as
got
you
five
want.
years left, yeah.
You're going to be dead in 5 years. Who cares? But if you're going to live to 100, which
That's
is
the goal.
currently what you're planning on, this is where you have to plan for 30 years, not just 5 years. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's really the investment that you're making. And then just don't text while you're driving and look both ways when you cross the road. Um,
Exactly.
um, your electrolytes are all fine. Your calcium is high at 11.1.
Yes,
We
and
know
that's
it's
why.
been high for a long time. We just have to monitor that very closely. I'm going to look at and your PTH, your parathyroid hormone is high.
Yes,
So remind me again, you've had surgery already.
I've had 2 surgeries, and when I went to see you, I had just come from the Norman Center in Tampa,
Yes. Yeah.
who refused to do the third surgery. They said it was too risky,
That's
and
yeah,
they
but I mean the risk of this disease is greater than the risk of surgery.
that's what I want to talk to you about because I know we talked about moving the parathyroid into my arm, And I looked up that, and it is commonly done for secondary parathyroid. I couldn't find anything for primary and anybody
The
doing
issue
that.
is right, and the issue is that if you're a virgin and this was your first surgery, not an issue. The problem is you don't want to not have parathyroid, and the reason we put it in the forearm is that if your numbers are still high, we can take it out of here very easily.
That I
What we
understand.
don't want is for it all to be in a bucket somewhere, and you don't have access to the hormone.
So the problem is that the last sestamibi scan didn't really show enough obviousness of where the actual problem lie in my neck. And
Right.
the doctors also said that they thought that they would end up severing one of my vocal cords if they went and took it out.
Right, and that's a
So
technical issue, where the risk is increased if this is a revisional surgery, which it would be.
yeah, this is going to be number 3 for me.
Right, but at the same time, part of the operation is it's a very technical operation, so that risk is higher. And again, the decision that you have to make a decision as to where your own concern for risk is. The only other thing is, have you had an MRI of your brain recently?
No, I've never had an MRI of my
Because
brain.
that's the only other thing to make sure that your pituitary gland is not that there's no adenomas or issues in your pituitary gland, because
Okay.
sometimes that can affect the PTH as well.
Really? Okay.
Your kidney
And
function is fine, so just an MRI of your brain would be the next logical step, particularly if the sestamibes are relatively negative, and assuming that they've looked at your chest as well as your neck.
no, I do not think they looked at my chest,
Because
honestly.
sometimes you can have
They're down here. Yep.
right.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
why I say you should look from at least the middle of the chest up to kind of the base of the jaw.
Now, is that something that you can order, or do I need to find a local doctor to do
I,
that?
Ideally, it's a local doctor, but we can definitely order that. And, the best they can say is no.
Okay. Okay.
However, when you do this, I think your other doctors are correct, is that it shouldn't be an exploratory surgery as a revision. We need
Exactly.
to know where the problem is. So these numbers just tell me, hey, let's go look a little harder to figure out where it is. Because if we explore this, but the gland is here, that's a fail.
Yeah, you don't want to go in there and not find it. Yeah.
But we know that you are overproducing parathyroid hormone to the point that it's affecting your bones. And
Right, right. Because I have osteoporosis now. The
correct,
latest scan was negative 2.6.
correct. And that's a
So,
concern for me. And there are some medical ways you can treat this, but not very effectively.
yeah, I do not want to do the bonita and all that garbage.
Because
Yeah.
that's the other option that you have, and I'm not certain that the effectiveness and the tolerance is that good. So let's start with looking for a source first,
Okay.
and then if we find a source, here it is, we mark it, we go for it.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Hey, Christina. Now
Hello.
you can see me. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
All right is not good enough. I'm fine.
I'm
Why do you say
struggling.
just all right?
Say what?
Why do you just say all right?
Because this whatever's going on with me is starting to have its effects of no energy and no motivation to do anything. And I kind of looked back over my course of the fall and realized that it's been slowly creeping up on me that I'm
Right.
just
Well, we
not.
do have some answers.
I hope we have answers. That's what I'm
We do
hoping.
have some answers, and it's kind of the first frustration for me is these answers should have been had years ago.
I agree with you. Yes.
That's frustrating. And I think, how many operations have you had on your neck?
2.
Two. I wasn't sure it was 2 or 3. And the neck isn't the problem.
Well, I think way back when I had 2 operations, 2008 and 2017. I believe those were the dates. And I'm pretty sure the sestamibi scans for those did actually flare up. So it
Correct,
might be
but
questionable.
what caused them to what? So yes, there was hypertrophy of your parathyroid glands, no question about that. But what caused it? Were the thyroid glands themselves the problem?
We don't know. And you're thinking potentially it was the pituitary gland.
Yeah, so either these guys are autonomously the 3 causes of parathyroid disease. Either the glands themselves have developed a non-cancerous growth that is productive of hormones. So the problem is your neck, where these things are just growing and they have to be taken care of. The commonest place we see it is people with chronic renal disease get increase of the parathyroids, but that's not a parathyroid problem. That is a kidney problem.
Right. That's
And then
secondary
the
hyperparathyroidism, right?
Right. And then
Yes.
the primary hyperparathyroidism is, or the secondary is, no, that's tertiary. The secondary is where they have a brain adenoma or a growth in the brain that triggers the growth of these.
Right.
And that's where you have to target this, not this.
Not this.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
completely.
that's what we're dealing with. And we've got both a positive and a negative result, because the concept is important. You know, if somebody says, well, we've done 2 surgeries in your neck, let's do another one, that is not the answer.
Right.
Okay. Does that make sense? And then, so they're from the MRI of the brain, which was very, very useful, there are 3 areas that I want to discuss.
Okay, please.
The first global area, which is predictive, but also stabilizable, if not corrective, is your global loss of brain tissue, which is basically a cognitive impairment, structural brain loss.
Okay.
That is heading toward Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the reason for that is because of a crappy diet for most of your life.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So you can't undo that, but taking stock of the fact that this is progressive unless you intervene by giving yourself the correct substrate, which is fat, MCT oil, DHA. Those are and ketones. So being on a ketogenic diet, taking DHA or fish oil and perhaps MCT oil or coconut oil, those are the best things you can do. Becoming insulin sensitive or being insulin sensitive are the best things you can do to stabilize your cognitive impairment.
Right, which I've been doing for the last 2
Which you've been doing, right.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm giving you credit, but that is something that it's measurable in your brain.
Got it. Okay.
And the nice thing is early on, it is, at least Steve Cunane's research, who's probably the world's expert on this, is that on the protocol, that's not my protocol, that's his protocol. And his protocol does work to stabilize and potentially even regenerate at early stages.
Good.
Some of that brain white matter.
And I think if the report said that it was age, in other words, it was similar
right,
to
but what they say,
age.
Right, well, they see it so common in people like you.
Because we all eat like crap.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
But Steve Cunane sees that. He did a study a little while ago on women with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a form of insulin resistance, hyperinsulinemic insulin resistance.
Yep.
And he saw measurable cognitive impairment in this cohort of women. And you know what the average age was?
No.
23.
Holy crap. Wow.
Right. Now, in that age group, it was correctable. But they needed to change the eating pattern to correct it.
Of course.
And these are the healthiest of the healthy women. So, he documented and proved that. So his protocol, I've got it right here, is 1 or 2 tablespoons of MCT oil a tablespoon twice a day, the DHA of over 1,000, 500 to 1,000, preferably 1,000, of any fish oil with DHA in it, and then a ketogenic diet. Right. That I'm going to push you to do is what? What's the other brain benefit? And this is an autonomous brain benefit.
Well, I guess exercise. Yeah. Okay.
Physical activity.
And it's interesting because I was much more physically active 6 months ago than I am now, and I'm just really struggling with motivation to do anything. And
I hear you, and we're gonna talk about that in the other 2. Let me ask you that thing behind you, is that a viola?
It's 2 violins. I play French horn.
Oh, okay. Because one looks bigger than the other.
Yeah, it's just the camera angle. Actually, one is bigger than the other. One's a child size.
Okay.
One's violin and one's a child size.
Okay.
They're in my family.
Yeah, that's why I was just looking. I thought it might be a viola, but playing the violin or playing music,
yep,
is exercise.
Yes, and I do that, but I've been struggling trying to motivate myself to practice. I play in the city in a trio, and I do manage to get myself there to those rehearsals. But picking up that damn horn and trying to get myself to practice for an hour is just, and it didn't used to be. It's same thing with getting out for a walk or going out on my bicycle. It's just been like
Right.
extraordinarily hard.
And there may be a seasonal aspect to it. I think there's some brain issues related to it, but
Yeah.
the more you can motivate yourself, or perhaps even if you've got a partner or a coach. I know at your age it's probably not, I mean, you experienced enough that you coach others, but sometimes the value of a personal trainer or a coach is for that accountability and for the motivate. In other words, if you know you've got a lesson at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to show up for the lesson. If it's you have to play, and it's not about getting better, it's about the accountability.
I have to tell my horn teacher that she has to push me.
Yeah, and whatever's required, have that conversation. Do you stand when you play?
No, not normally.
Why not?
Oh, because it's hard. I don't have the weight of the horn, and especially with my shoulder, makes it hard. I mean, it's hard to stand and play.
Get a child's horn. Get a child's violin. No,
I have a child's horn, actually.
I ask that is because standing and playing, even just standing, your legs are going to move, your muscles are going to move. Mm-hmm. It's just part of what I'm trying to do is to use your music to be part of physical activity as well as the creative arts.
Yep.
That's why, playing the violin is also the movement is of value, and it's a repetitive movement, which is almost better. Those prolonged repetitive movements are actually better than high intensity for a short period of time.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I just actually, somebody sent me a paper on that, and people that do kind of move up and down with their calf muscles, they tested this in the soleus muscle, in the calf, have a better profile than people who have a burst in the gym for half an hour, and then are sedentary for the rest of the time.
Oh, okay.
So it's repetitive movement, right? Repetitive muscle use has a better mobility protective effect than intensity for brief bursts.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. I do have a personal trainer that I see once a week. We go through the strength training routine.
Okay.
So there's that.
Oh, that's good. That's the more you can get engaged in that. And again, part of it's for the brain function, part of it's for the physical side.
And I'm assuming the excess parathyroid hormone that's coursing from my body is not helping me much.
No, that's what I'm saying. But there's two parts to your brain. The one that I'm not a brain guy, so I'm very agricultural in my knowledge. But I'm looking at this report, the MRI report, and you do have a lesion in your skull that is compressing your brain.
Okay.
And it's compressing the back part of your brain. And that certainly may be affecting you. So
there's a lesion on the pituitary also, right?
No, I'm going to talk about there's three parts.
Three parts.
The first one was the global thing which you're doing with your diet. The second part is extraaxial enhancing lesion along the right tentorial leaflet measuring 1.7 by 1.1. So it's in the brain, that's a fairly big, it's almost a 2 centimeter size. 2 centimeters, about almost an inch size lesion within the right cerebellar pontine image. There is some mass effect upon the adjacent cerebellum. The cerebellum is the back part of your brain, and there is some compression of that. And it sounds like this may be a, let's see, extracellular enhancing with a differential diagnosis of a meningioma with some mass effect upon the cerebellum. I would like somebody who is a little bit more expert in these matters, probably a neurosurgeon, to have a look at this and give you an opine on it.
Okay.
Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. So the problem with the brain is it's a closed box.
Yes.
So any growth,
there's no place to go. Pressure. Yeah.
Correct. And you get two things. You get increase in global pressure by the volume, and also local pressure that contorts the shape of a particular part of your brain.
Okay.
So again, I don't know much about this, but I know enough to say, hey, if this was me, I would want an expert opinion on it.
Okay.
Okay. And at the same time, you do have a 5 millimeter probable microadenoma in your brain. So the person that read this study says correlate with pituitary function. The reason we got the test was because of abnormal function.
Right. I figured that that's what that meant, that we did it the other way around.
I suspect that you've had a pituitary lesion that caused this growth.
Okay. Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
And I've done enough work here to know that right now, this is not an area that we need to be operating on and doing anything with. I want this. I want more information from an expert about this than I can give you. And until we have that, that's the value of doing this. And it kind of is annoying to me that this hadn't been done before, because these things didn't just occur.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's what's frustrating.
You were the only person that ever suggested it, and I've seen plenty of experts, theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustration. Now, I may be barking up the wrong tree, but we've got three important things that I want clarification on. The global brain stuff is so common in people of your age that they accept it as normal. I don't.
Yes.
But that's between you and me. But the other two, I would like clarification of in the context of hyperparathyroidism.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think the best person to seek out is a neurosurgeon.
Okay. So better up here than down in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. So a local neurosurgeon is what you're looking for, someone that can give you an opinion on the mass effect and on the pituitary.
Okay.
And they may say nothing to worry about, which is fine. They may say, hey, we've got to track this, or let's follow, whatever it may be. But I want their expert opinion, positive or negative, preferably negative, but I want their expert opinion.
So yeah, the mass effect thing, yes, I understand that. The pituitary, that requires action, right? Because my blood values suck.
Correct. And I want them to look at further testing and further workup of the pituitary side.
Okay. So would a neuroendocrinologist be an appropriate person to see, or just go straight to
I would start with a neurosurgeon. I would start with this crossover, but the endocrinologist has more of a global, they do all kinds of endocrine things. They may not take this as seriously as I would want them to take it.
Okay.
That's the challenge.
Yeah. Plus it takes about 6 to 8 months to get an appointment with an endocrinologist.
Right. It's miserable. And then you're always deflated. You know what? If this was actionable and they were aware of things, they should have been able to have done this workup before.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It bothers me that it wasn't done before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think the appropriate person is a neurosurgeon. Let's start with neurosurgery, because they're going to opine on both. They may work up the pituitary more. If they don't, then we can do that.
Okay.
But I want to, we've got two mass lesions. I'm looking for their opinion.
Right. Okay. So get a neurosurgeon involved. And then, I mean, at some point we have to deal with the pituitary thing, because there's high calcium in my blood and the high PTH.
Right. But the person that would do that or at least the person that would give you advice on that is the neurosurgeon.
Is the neurosurgeon. Right. Okay.
Right. So those are areas where I want to get their expertise first, because that is probably where you're going to end up, at least getting their opinion. So why don't we start there and work backwards?
Okay. So if they say they don't want to deal with it, then you go to the endocrinologist.
Then we go and we find other ways to deal with it.
Okay.
But if you tell them, look, you've had 2 neck surgeries, it didn't fix the problem. We know from the sestamibi, which we have the results of, that there's no neck issue.
Right.
We now know it's this.
Right. So I can send them both reports.
And I suspect the second time you had surgery, they didn't do this. They should have done this, and it could have avoided a second surgery here.
Very likely, yeah.
But that's water under the bridge. We can't go backwards. But let's go forward and figure this one out.
Okay.
Because we know the numbers are elevated. We know it's not your neck. We know it's not your kidneys. It has to be the brain.
Right. And we know it's not my kidneys, because my kidney values, EGFR and all that, are good.
Normal, no kidney issues.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So by process of elimination, plus also we have a positive MRI finding.
Right.
So we've got a positive finding in your brain plus 2 negative findings in your body with an elevated number. So it has to be the brain.
So I did some Googling for neurosurgeons. I don't know anybody. I suppose I could try to find references, but if somebody's the chair of the neurosurgical department at Stony Brook University, would he be a good person to start with?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So
And
if that's
I would look
close.
at potentially a teaching type institution for this.
Okay. Well, that would be it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Because a lot of neurosurgeons, the neurosurgeons are so busy, all they want to do is operate. But if you go to an academic environment, they're going to work it up as well as potentially do the
Okay.
surgery. I'm not saying
Okay.
you need surgery, but at least you need the workup.
Right. Right. And then I guess there's a couple of different ways of treating the pituitary tumor, but
Yeah, and that's what they're going to be expert at least and then also there's the mass effect. And if they see both, hey, while we're in there, can we I need their opinion. That's all.
got it.
Does it make
Okay.
sense? They
Yes.
may say, oh, nothing to worry about. Let's just follow it with another MRI in 2 years or 5 years or what. Fine, at least from the mass. But
Yeah.
I want that opinion because we've seen a positive finding that I don't have the expertise to talk about.
Okay. Makes sense to
Does that
me.
make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the game plan going forward. And I
Okay.
think if you can get in to see that Stony Brook group, that would be ideal. That's a good university.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I will, call and make an appointment and they'll tell me it's 2 months, it's 5 months, I don't know. I mean, it's like getting
Yeah.
appointments. So,
Yeah.
but that's what
Well,
I'll
but
do.
you tell them you have a pituitary adenoma,
Yeah.
and they would be probably that. In other words, they'll take something that they may be interested in. But let's see
Well,
what you can
in
do
this
there.
guy's bio, it says he specializes in pituitary adenomas. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. So that's exactly what you want to see.
Right. Right. Okay, good.
That's the starting point for me.
Okay, good. Because I mean, I don't have any word of mouth basis for
Yeah.
anything.
No, but that sounds reasonable. That sounds good.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, let's start there and see where we go. Anything else going? And I think in terms of the fatigue and everything else, there are multiple causes for it, but I suspect that this may be contributing to it quite significantly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I didn't, if you had asked me back in, 3 months ago, how was I would have said, oh, I'm fine. But now I'm looking back because I don't feel fine now. And I
Yeah.
started to look back at what my history has been over the last 4 or 5 months of doing things like exercise and playing my horn, and it sucks. So
Right.
clearly something is going on that's amiss.
Yeah, and I think certainly the cerebellar compression affects balance and rhythm and all of those things quite significantly. That's what the cerebellum does.
Oh, okay.
So again, I'm not assigning blame to it because I can't. I don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
But I would be somewhat suspicious of that. And certainly, if you look at cerebellar ataxia and that kind of thing, where the arms, especially the limbs and the legs and the arms, don't work properly, that is a concern.
Yeah, okay, but that I haven't experienced that yet. I mean, my balance has
correct. You
always
haven't
been kind of
experienced that yet.
iffy, but this could have been
But
around
those
for
are
a
all
while.
things to discuss. Someone who's a musician,
Yeah,
that raises the level. Just like if you're a singer, you want to be careful around the chords.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
same kind of thing.
Yep. Okay.
So I think that is the eye of the needle for you to get in to see this person, and then let me know how that goes.
Yeah. Okay. So when I make the appointment, I explain that there's two things on the brain MRI.
And I would focus on the pituitary. Tell him, look, you've got hyperparathyroidism. You've had 2 failed neck surgeries. We've now found an adenoma in your pituitary gland, and I have referred you to them.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense that you're the referring doctor, of course. Okay.
Yeah, but also using the pituitary, and then they'll see this other thing as well and opine on it, but don't confuse them with too much.
Right. Yeah.
Focus on the pituitary.
They'll read the report and decide that
they'll read the report, but really focus their attention on the pituitary.
Pituitary. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm fine. I mean, I haven't lost any weight. Not that I actually need to, but I'm hovering.
Yeah, I'm not. The weight is just stability. It's the general biology and really the fatigue and the laissez-faire, just the flatness that I'm worried about.
That's what's happening. So we have to get the pituitary thing fixed.
Yeah. I think also if you've got a project like that to work on, it's also going to hopefully invigorate you just a little bit.
A project? Oh, you mean of talking?
Oh, getting this healthcare stuff done. I mean, it's a call to action, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I'm looking for as well. But let's go with that, and then we'll circle back once we've got some answers.
Okay, sounds good. And I have an in-person appointment with you in February. So
perfect. By that time we hopefully will have a lot of
more
answers.
Information.
Let's see where we are.
Okay. Sounds good.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 If you've made it this far, thanks so much. I think Dr. Cywes is an outstanding doctor, and this video gives you an idea about what it's like having a virtual appointment with him. As for what's happening now, I called the neurosurgeon at Stony Brook, and he did look at my brain MRI. He said nothing is urgent, which is good news, and that I must see an endocrinologist first. Fortunately, he set up that appointment within his group for January 4th. I'll follow up with more information when I have it. Thanks so much for watching. Please also hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Have a great day and a great new year.